Hello and welcome to the Sideboard. I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and I'm being joined by 2010 Player of the Year, Brad Nelson, and he's got a pretty spicy brew for Standard today.
I do.
Now, this is a Frites deck.
Yes.
But, normally when you're looking at Frites decks, you're seeing cards like Inferno Titan. Yep. You're seeing, a deck that's not as, diverse in the things that it does. You never see a Sun Titan, you never see Phantasmal Images. The Sideboard, you never see Strangler Geist or Sword of War and Peace. So I'm wondering, how did you arrive at this deck list?
All right, so what I want to do in the last couple weeks is beat Delver. That was like goal number one. I either was playing Delver or I was beating it. Mm-hmm. I tried a bunch of different decks, trying to go underneath Delver, trying to go over it, and I couldn't find anything until I started stumbling upon Frites. I was playing like Gristlebrands and Wormcoils and Infernals, but those cards don't do anything against Delver. They're good in other matchups, but Elesh Norn is usually just good anyway. And none of the threats are good against Solar Flare, but Sun Titan and Phantasmal, which is a great tool to beat them.
Yeah, so, just having those in your deck is going to make you incredibly strong in Solar Flare, especially game one.
Yeah, you just have the same game plan as them, except you probably have more copies because you're looting and digging through your deck. Also, you have a township that you usually find and just trump their 6/6s. So the reason that I like this deck against a Delver infested metagame is you have almost every single card that is good against Delver. Like all the cards that people want to trump them with, you want to legend out their Geist of St. Traps, you want to block their Delver secrets, you want to kill their Sword of War and Pieces, and then your game plan with Elesh Norn is if you ever threaten Elesh Norn and Unbarrel Rates early in the game, they're stuck at not being able to tap out except for Restoration Angel, which you can just chump for days with Lingering Souls. So they can't Geist, they can't aggressive draw you, and they get stuck with like 2 mana a turn that they get to invest on their turn. So you get to get way ahead by like flashing Lingering Souls, your Faithless Lootings, your Tracker's Instincts, while they're just like hoping you don't, Elesh Norn them with 7 mana and an Unbarrel Rates. So I'm just like really happy about this deck. I think that it has a really good matchup against most of the Delver lists out there. Plus the surprise factor is definitely beneficial when playing against people. Everyone's going to expect me to turn 1 Delver Secrets them, and I'm going to cast Mulch.
Yeah.
And just get way ahead of them if they're going to keep a hand that's good in the mirror match.
Yeah, I mean, this deck gets to do a lot of stuff that other decks don't just because it's 5 colors and it's so interactive with its own graveyard. Ancient Grudge is something that normally would be pretty dangerous to play main deck, but in a deck like this, when it's not good, you can just looting it away, and then if they do happen to draw a sword out of nowhere, you still get to use it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it just gets revealed off your, Mulch, you get a free card. Just an incredibly strong spell to have as a one-of in this deck that has like a really low cost.
Yes.
To what your deck is
just
trying to do.
Having access to it means that I'll get to it at like probably 2 out of 5 games, guaranteed. And Sword is kind of a problem for this deck. It only produces 8 green creatures to chump block. I mean, you do have I have one against Sword by just Sun Titan bird chains and like Phantasmal Image in my birds and just beat them down while I just chump block for days. But other than that, like you want to kill the Sword of War and Pieces, and that's what it does. In the sideboard, I really like my matchups against like the control decks that I have problems with. I just like change into a Strangler Geist, Sword of War and Peace. Like these 2 cards are so good together. They're just insane.
Oh yeah, it's just absurd. I mean, especially post-board against these control decks, they're boarding against the Frites deck.
Yep.
They're trying to beat 6 and 7 drops, and if you're siding in Strangler Geist and Swords, suddenly your Lingering Souls tokens become threats that can win the game by themselves.
Yep.
The Strangler Geist are threats that are extremely hard to deal with for them because now at that point their deck, the removal they have is very much aimed at killing these big things so they can just kill and then they go away. Strangler Geist doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So it puts a huge strain on their removal, and then a lot of the time they end up using that removal on the Strangler Geist because they can't get hit by the sword early, and then it frees up room to start, copying their things with Image or getting ahead with Lingering Souls.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it has haste and it has 2 lives, and it's cheap and it gets equipped to a sword. It does everything perfect. I think my favorite thing about this deck is I have a 1-card sideboard against Wolf Run Ramp. I just board in a single Ghost Quarter.
Which actually makes it extremely difficult to lose against them, because if they ever Primeval Titan, you can just image it and look for your Ghost Quarter. Yeah. And because of your Sun Titan chain, the only way they're ever going to kill you is with Kessig Wolf Run.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, no, I definitely like
it. Seems really good.
I did try Bonfire, but Arc Trail ended up being better against the aggressive decks, because the only thing I worry about is like killing their first 2 creatures and then pulling way ahead with my chain. I tried Bonfire, but if I can't pressure them, I can't really get ahead with a Bonfire, whereas with an Arc Trail, it's cheap. I get to do something else in my turn and kill off their first 2 spells and just easily win after that.
makes sense. Yeah, I like the Archerails a lot. I've played a few matches with this deck on Magic Online. Brad showed me the deck earlier this week. Really impressed with the stuff that this deck was capable of.
Yeah.
Not so impressed with its Tezzeret control matchup, though.
No, I'm definitely happy about it. It definitely has like a huge surprise factor, and it's very consistent. I mean, you do have some games that you just lose to yourself, but I think that's the problem with every deck but Delver, and that's the reason that Delver is good, because it just doesn't lose to itself that often. But it's definitely another fair-ish deck, but it's on that spectrum of doing something completely broken, and it's a reason I like it.
It can turn 3 Elish Norn.
Yeah, it can turn 3 Elish Norn, and Elish Norn is really good against Delver, and all the decks trying to hate out a Delver deck. So I'm very happy with where I'm at today, and I think I'm going to go miles with this deck.
I hope you do.
Yeah.
Good luck, Brad.
Thank you.